Now, walking around the room, there's only one laser engraver I've seen, and that's Epilog. And Epilog makes a great product. This is a laser engraver, so it is actually burning the product and removing it from there. And if you can see the detail that it can create, I mean, laser engraving is nothing new. It's just, it's not printing, it's not embroidery, and you can actually use a bitmap or a vector file. It's just removing it. It can create some gradient looks. It's really cool, but you've got to have the right client who's demanding a specific product to be really justifying buying one of these machines. They constantly get quicker or cheaper. And if you ever, you know, engrave on like a bottle, they have a rotary feature, so it'll actually rotate the cylinder product to actually create the design on the whole thing. So most of the embroidery, or the engraving, you start flat or you put in a special device to rotate it while the laser actually does the it's not debossing, but it is literally, yeah, it's engraving. And here's an Epson printer. Now, Epson makes DTG, they make wide format, and what we're looking at right now, Colin, this is called cut and sew. So cut and sew is sublimating onto fabric like this, polyester. It has to be 100% polyester to sublimate. In this case with cut and sew, you print the full color image, then you cut it out, and a seamstress will then sew it together to create the final product. If you look at these are all cut and sew. So again, it was started as that. It then is assembled by someone like her with the sewing machine. What I really love about all over sublimation and cut and sew, so there's a difference between all over sublimation and cut and sew. Well, kind of a difference. When it comes, this is cut and sew, as in, again, we're printing it and then we're doing it. The other way you can do it, you can print a very large image transfer and then have a very large heat press to heat press both sides of the garment. And that typically leaves some white edges right here, and that's why cut and sew is a little bit better for sure, because you really get the full bleed that you want. What's awesome about all over sublimation, there is no feel of any ink. It's literally called dye sublimation because you're dyeing the fabric. The reason why it's called sublimation is you're going from a solid to a gas back to a solid. You don't hit the liquid state. So back to science class, that's how it works. Another great thing about all over just dye sublimation, other than the hand, the color vibrancy. This will never fade. I mean, it is amazing. You know, cyclists for years have been wearing this kind of stuff. Now you're seeing it really popular with a lot of softball teams and other stuff, and it's a one-off shirt. I mean, there is no bulk, you know, advantage. Each product has to be made one at a time, so it's a one-off. But it all over sublimation, it's a great process. It's going to be 100% polyester. That's why it dominates the sports world, because they want something light that isn't going to just hold a bunch of sweat and so forth. It's moisture wicking. And you can see there's a lot of products. I mean, sheets are constantly dye sublimated. There's just tons of products that you don't realize it was actually printed using dye sublimation equipment. The big problem with cut and sew, though, is you got to be a talented seamstress to get the best results. And do remember that each size shirt has to be different. I mean, it is way more of manufacturing and less decorating. Sure. You've become a manufacturer at that point.
If you have any other questions, feel free to swing back by.
All right, here we have what's called a white toner printer. White toner printers allow you to print a full color transfer using essentially a laser printer. They have different types of paper, or what you would call PET film, that can be then printed on.
How have you kind of enjoyed the show and being a part of the Deco team?
Well, it's the Impressions show, the biggest show here in Long Beach of the year. It's been a blast. It's not your typical Long Beach show, but hey, we're moving in the right direction, getting out of COVID phase, and a lot of really cool stuff this weekend I've seen.
Yeah, and we kind of set you up with some presentations, and you've got to interact with a lot of cool people, some familiar faces and also a lot of new faces. How nice is it to interact with people in person versus, you know, you're usually interacting with people over the phone or over Skype or whatnot.
It is fun to finally meet a lot of my clients that I've worked with and helped and get the most out of DecoNetwork software and hear their essentially their gratefulness of and gratitude of what we've been able to do as a software company to help them grow their business.
What do you feel like has been the most fun part or the most entertaining part for you to do these presentations?
Well, what I love about the decoration industry is anybody can get into it, and you have startup shops or mom and pops, you have large 50, 60 people businesses, so you get a little bit of everything, and it's a lot of fun at the trade shows to just get feedback of what their wants and needs are to help them grow their business.
Yeah, and a lot of positive responses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really fun weekend. I always love attending a trade show. There's a lot you can learn and a lot of new equipment that is going to be game-changing to the industry.
Yeah, and speaking of that equipment, DTF has been kind of the talk of this trade show. There's a lot of booths with DTF equipment. How cool has it been for you to see this in person? And a lot of people are seeing this equipment for the first time.
I think direct-to-film is the biggest thing to come out since direct-to-garment around 15-ish years ago. I mean, obviously it was a little bit older than that, but it's really jumping on. Over the past 6 months, I have been recommending to a lot of my clients who are looking at buying digital printing equipment like DTG to be looking at direct-to-film. And I knew it was going to be kind of the direct-to-film show. I didn't actually expect it to be this big. There is without a doubt more direct-to-film printers than any other digital printing process in the room. And it does definitely show you where the industry is going. And not too often do you have a decoration process come along that not only delivers better results, it has a smaller learning curve, and it's cheaper, that it's going to be, again, it's game-changing technology. Now that technology is constantly evolving, but I mean, we have a dozen booths here showing off different direct-to-film equipment, and it's just the start to the big change in the industry.
Right. As far as some other highlights from the actual show and some of the booths you've been able to walk around to, what's kind of been your main takeaway?
Well, one thing is there's not as much screen printing here. Typically you would see a lot more screen printing equipment. I'm not saying direct-to-film is going to be eliminating screen printing, but I mean, the days of burning 6 screens to make a 6-color print for 24 shirts is going to be obsolete when a digital printing process can do it much quicker and easier, right. And the customer loves the quality. So that's the big thing I've seen. There's a lot of really cool pieces of equipment that you may never even want to buy, but it's
right.
Really cool to kind of see how does that actually work, and it allows you to strategically put yourself in a place knowing where you want to go in the future, and the conference itself is a great networking opportunity.
For sure.
There's a lot of other decoration shops, there's a lot of vendors you can work with, classes, talk shop. I mean, it is an information frenzy.
Right, and this is the first trade show of 2022. We have another trade show coming up in March in Atlantic City, so if you guys weren't at this trade show, you have another opportunity coming up in just a couple months.
Yeah, it's not the typical Long Beach show. I mean, Long Beach is always the largest show of the year. What we've noticed is most of the people attending this show are more West Coast based.
For sure.
So I think you're going to see a lot of the people who would typically travel across the country are going to go to the Atlantic show in March, and then in September we have the Fort Worth show in Texas.
So if you guys weren't here, I hope we did a decent job of recapping. We'll put some videos out so you can kind of see what you missed and what was going on. We'll show off some of these DTF machines and some of the other cool equipment here. And hopefully we'll see you in Atlantic City because we'll be there. So we'll see you later, guys.
Thanks, Colin.